Whenever I do my award videos for each year of anime, I leave one award as the most coveted above them all, and that is the Best Girl Award. Best Girl is the highest praise one can give, even higher than Anime of the Year in my opinion. But over the past 3 years, there's a trend I've noticed, which is that it would go to a character who is the main girl in a show about a loser suddenly being befriended by one of the most beautiful girls in school. In 2021, it went to Shoko Komi, in 2022, it went to Marin Kitagawa, and in 2023, it went to Anna Yamada. These girls are great, but today I want to focus on the shows they're from, namely Komi-san Can't Communicate, My Dress-Up Darling, and The Dangers in My Heart, respectively. Now, you can argue amongst yourselves as to which you prefer, as any three of these options would be valid, since they have their own areas where they shine. In my opinion, Komi-san has the best comedy, My Dress-Up Darling has the best forward motion, and The Dangers in My Heart has some of my favourite dynamics. But the thing that worries me is that a lot of them are forgotten shortly after they come out. Some of this is inevitable with the frequent turnover of series we see over the seasons, but often when people look back on these in retrospect, they're quick to accuse these shows of only being carried by the spur of the moment hype that it captured, and that couldn't be further from the truth for me. So I want to preface all of this by talking about something I value in my anime: escapism. I think it's neat. Life can be a little frustrating at points, so we have hobbies where we can enjoy ourselves and try to forget about all that crap. That's not often the primary reason people enjoy their hobbies. Some people do what they do because they want to get healthier, or because it's fun, and honestly, to each their own. Those are both pretty good reasons for doing what you do. But escapism and anime go together pretty damn nicely. The entire thing has to be drawn, so reality really is whatever the animators make it. Often a series will also be based off a singular manuscript, usually a manga or light novel, which was plucked from the stream of consciousness of often just one person. Now obviously this is something that slightly goes out the window when an entire studio is set to work on adapting something, but there is still a level of departure from reality employed whenever making anime. Now some would argue that this departure from reality can be harmful, and one of those some would be Hayao Miyazaki. There's a famous quote from him saying that anime is a mistake, and this quote is wrong. Not only in the figurative sense, because how could anime be a mistake when Shimonetta exists? Checkmate Miyazaki's sales. But the quote is also literally wrong, because it was never said by Hayao Miyazaki, though he did certainly have some things to say about the state of anime. The thing he had the strongest words on was the idea that modern anime was made by people who can't stand to be around others, and had chosen to create and subsequently immerse themselves in fiction that was divorced from reality. Now this got me thinking, because the three anime I just mentioned are certainly escapists to an extent, as despite being set in what is ostensibly our world, the idea of a lonely weirdo getting noticed by a beautiful girl with a wonderful personality isn't exactly a realistic scenario. But many say that these shows are entirely predicated on being just empty fluff that is designed to bait virgins into watching them by showing them a cute girl. Well, tonight I have to say, joke's on you, I'm into that shit. But seriously, on a more complex note, the enjoyment I feel watching these shows goes a lot deeper than just what's on the surface level. Yes, there's an escapist quality to each of them, because they are anime that feature best girl being best girl, but these are not the extent of all that these shows represent. The reason we keep coming back to these shows isn't because of the cute girls. I watch this shit for the boys. Ichikawa, Tadano, and Gojo are, most importantly, characters and not audience surrogates. If these shows were merely the vehicles to show off cute girls that people describe them as, then they would have just made it one long POV shot with silences for the viewer to interject their own dialogue. Side note, I would not be against this idea. But the truth is that this is a story, and for a story there must be a protagonist, and for a protagonist there must be a central flaw. With Tadano, it's that he's cripplingly unable to read a room, yet now he must help Komi navigate her way to 100 friends. Gojo is afraid of showing people his passion, and yet he's thrust into a situation where he has to be the expert. Ichikawa is a violent cynic who is thrust into a situation where he must confront that there is good in others and in himself. I want to hone in on Ichikawa specifically, because this protagonist is one that I was the most conflicted about upon starting The Dangers in My Heart, but gradually made his way into probably being my favourite of the bunch. Many people were down on Ichikawa at the start of the show with a monologue about him wanting to kill everyone, which some may argue is, well, just a little over the top. I was also unsure on how I felt about this setup. Not necessarily because of the content of what he said, as what he said was on par for the course of most edgy teens, but it's more so that they never explained any of this in the first few episodes of the show. However, I was willing to let that slip for a while because this show was pretty good outside of that one oversight, and I'm glad I did stick with it because the show actually gave me a pretty satisfying answer later in the series. See, Ichikawa's cynicism stems from how he felt abandoned by his friends after he entered started middle school. So as a way of shielding himself from the loneliness, decided that everyone around him was better off dead, thinking he had no chance to get back with the sense of friendship that he had lost with others. Now, it's not exactly a surprising revelation to anyone who's read Catcher in the Rye, but there are two ways where this differs from that novel. One, The Dangers in My Heart does this much more gradually, and intertwining it with Ichikawa learning new things about Yamada, ultimately to create a much more lighthearted and hopeful trajectory for the character. And two, if this was ripping off Catcher in the Rye, Ichikawa wouldn't fantasize about killing his classmates. He'd fantasize about killing John Lennon. Now, of course, the protagonists of these shows are the main focus of the narrative, but obviously the audience's attention is elsewhere, namely on the cute girls. Now, this is just how it is by design. After all, cute girls being cute isn't something I'm protesting. But as nice as cute shit is, I've got to get the feeling that what I'm watching is not just the same thing over and over again. And what these series get right is the protagonist, and by proxy the audience, learns something different about the main girl with each major appearance. Best example of this is Komi-san. Komi-san is easily the most segmented of each of these shows, and could even be described as a sketch show in places. Thus, variety is always the spice of life when it comes to this series. Now, Komi-san Can't Communicate is a pretty accurate title for the show, but despite Komi's inability to talk with people, the show features many different dimensions to her. A massive help with this is the wider cast, as each the eclectic collection of eccentrics provides a new situation for Komi to navigate. But what's most telling of the effort put into Komi's characterization comes when you see the same member of the wider cast pop up again. For example, when we previously introduced Nakanaka and Yamai are butting heads over Komi's friendship, she steps up and takes a different tone with them, something you really wouldn't have guessed from the first few episodes of Komi-san. And the series has many moments like this, contributing to a better picture of the wider cast, but most importantly, of Komi herself. There's a lot more to these girls than just the initial character designs. Believe me, if a character design was the whole battle, then you'd see a lot more Kisnaiva Dakimakuras out in the wild. So the thing that ties everything together is continuity. What I really rate with these series is no matter the context, you can pick up an episode of one of them and unwind pretty easily. This ain't Fate. However, all of these shows avoid the sitcom trappings of having everything reset to zero at the end of an episode. Much like Titanfall 2's campaign, cause and effect is put up to the forefront. To give an example, by process of elimination, it's time to talk about My Dress Up Darling, because the development of the relationship between Gojo and Marin is one that grows throughout the series, with the dynamic changing and each moment they spend together pushing the narrative in a new direction. And it helps that these moments are really well paced throughout what currently stands as only a 12-episode series. There are several moments of serious change to the dynamic between Marion and Gojo, which are nicely spaced out with some of the more casual hijinks in between. However, the more casual hijinks still show the effects of the previous moments of major change within the dynamic quite well. Gojo's workaholism within episodes 3 and 4 leads Marin to want him to relax. Gojo seeing Marin's expertise at the convention leads him to trust her more with designing cosplay shoots. And the moment at the end of episode 6, while not atypical of romance anime with something that slightly resembles a confession, but not enough to threaten to end the series, still influences events. This interaction is at the forefront of both Marin and Gojo's mind during the rest of the events of the show, and I assume still will be come a second season. The same goes for The Dangers in My Heart and Komi-san Can't Communicate. I'm enjoying the second season of the former and wishing for another season of the latter. I think these shows are not cynical products designed only as virgin bait, but stories with characters we want to see grow, change, and ultimately find happiness with each other. Clearly, this has paid dividends for them, since they are often the most popular shows of their respective seasons, even if, unfortunately, the seasonal hype machine then drops them for the next thing. So now that 2 out of 3 of these shows aren't currently the hottest properties on the market, now is the perfect time to give them a rewatch or a first-time watch if you've somehow made it this far in the video without having seen any of them. You'll realize why these shows are pretty amazing on their own merits, and not just as a showcase of whatever waifu they're repping. Basically, I'm done with feeling like a boomer just because I remember the original version of this image.